All right, guys. So we are live with the Eastgate UK podcast. And this week we have the founder of a company I know a lot of you guys love, Lacroix. Alex, welcome.
Hey, nice to see you.
So Alex,
Lacroix, that's the new one.
Is that
yeah,
pronounced?
I know. Lacroix.
That's how I'm gonna pronounce it. Not from now.
How should it be pronounced, Alex? It's really difficult for an English speaker like me not to. I always think of the French apparel company Lacroix.
Yeah.
When I say
yeah.
their name.
Yeah.
So for all the rest of us, how should it be pronounced?
The way you want. Lacroix is perfect. I like it. Yeah.
So Alex, tell us about your journey in electric skateboarding. How did you get into electric skateboards? How long have you been skateboarding for? What got you into this hobby?
How I got into electric skateboarding was when I was I was a lawyer before doing this. I was a patent lawyer, and I used to do a lot of extreme sports, snowboarding, kite surfing, mountain biking. Then I had kids and had a little less time, so wanted to get one of these boards to kind of go to the office. And that's how I started dabbling into it in 2017. And then while doing my research, is Montreal, if you've never been, there's a lot of hills. So I needed something. I'd never tried one before, but I was ready to pay a lot of what I thought was a lot of money at the time to buy one. And when I looked into the, I wanted to have the big wheels because Montreal has completely crappy roads. We have a lot of salt and potholes, which are they fill up again and then they break down again, and it's horrible. So yeah, I guess exactly. So I was looking for AT options. There wasn't a lot of options. There were no Chinese boards back then, or not a lot. So basically, there was only Evolve. And at that point, I don't know if it's true or not, but there was a lot of chatter on the web about disconnection with the remote. So I was like, all right, well, I have kids. I kind of want to do this, but I don't want to risk my life getting to a stop. If I need to stop and I can't stop, then I'm done. So then I discovered the Eastgate electric, what was it called? Electric Skateboard Builders Forum. And just discovered that, there was a whole community of people making their own boards. And so that's how a few months later, I got a Trampa-based electric skateboard done with Cali parts. And that was my first board. And then that winter, my brother had built one as well. We had a lot of fun. 12S4P, 6374s. It was on 7-inch tires. It was a lot of fun. It was reliable. It had dual fog box. We never had any disconnects. Battery was solid. So, but there was something with the platform that we didn't like. The tramp was very arched. So it just felt like, and there was just not a lot of options. So we just thought, all right, let's design our own platform. Use all these same parts, we kind of know how to build it and see where it goes. It was just meant to be a sideline at the beginning. So it was basically, the first offering was just to get the platform tested with the DIY community. So we offered them a discount. They tested the platform. They liked it. We started building complete boards. And slowly and surely, the orders kept coming in. And the rest is history, I guess.
So thinking about it, you're saying slowly but surely, but really, if you look at it, that's you've fairly grown in the time scale you've been running, considering it was only going to be a sideline. Were you surprised at the growth?
Yeah. So at first, I was a miserable lawyer. I freaking hated it. Can we swear on this show? I guess.
I think we can just about cope with it. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'll go for counselling afterwards. Okay, go for it.
So I was miserable. I was looking. Yeah. I had been involved in a bunch of other companies, but nothing to kind of let my law career behind me. And when this picked up, I was like, all right, I knew when something was hot, I needed to jump on it, so that's what I did. The minute it was kind of sustainable, but it was a huge risk. I mean, going from patent lawyer to building electric skateboards is not a not a very sound.
But it's actually quite a relevant area though, because there's been lots of talk on the forums. I guess a lot of the discussion has been about issues about patents, about respecting the amount of R&D that goes into some boards, and some countries maybe just going out and reaping the benefits of that, and how okay that is or not. What's your thoughts on that?
Oh my God, there's so much bullshit on those forums. So many people just fear mongering and trying to pull on their little corner of the blanket, have no clue what they're talking about. There's no real serious intellectual property infringement, or even just strictly patents, designs, trademarks. There are very few of those in the e-skate space.
So Alex, you're actually an expert, right? So
I used to be.
In an electric skateboard, do you think there's many things that you could actually patent legitimately?
Yeah. It's much easier for people to patent things than you would think. A slight improvement of something, you can patent it. It's just people don't go through the trouble, and it's not a huge industry generating billions of dollars, so people don't usually go to the trouble of it. But there are a lot. I could point to like half a dozen easily innovations in the various iterations of our boards that we would just say, hey, let's try this. Oh fuck yeah, it works well. Okay, and it makes the production easier. It makes maintenance easier. It makes a whole bunch of things. It doesn't need to be like a one wheel, going from four wheels to one. It doesn't need to be like this mind-blowing thing to be patentable.
So you don't sweat that stuff about putting stuff out there and worrying if somebody else copies it or learns from it.
Do. No, I wouldn't go so far. I wouldn't go so far as like I wouldn't sweat it. Like it kind of pisses me off when people copy off design. Like I like if you get inspired, that's not an issue. But just like ripping off people, no, there's a lot of effort. I guess
that's the issue, isn't it? Because if you've taken a design and it's taken you like 6 months of R&D to improve that, or
a lot of iterations, and you go through. I mean, I'm on a Slack channel with all the engineers and the designers, and there's like 1,000 notifications every day. I mean, there's a lot of work that goes into this. So that's kind of taking a shortcut that pisses me off. But it is what it is. It's part of the game.
So Alex, I just want to go back in time a little bit in your story there and go to the part where you decided to quit as a patent lawyer and start Lacroix. What were the first 6 months like? What kind of problems and decisions did you face? I mean, did you have an office straight away, or did you kind of work out your basement like a lot of these people do? Or
right in the basement, absolutely. And so I quit when it became unmanageable to do both. When I had it wasn't fun in my head anymore. It wasn't like a sideline where I could just like build a few. And then GF was GF is our technician, or ghetto engineer as we call him, and he lived in like another part of Montreal, so he would build like all the electronics back then, and then I would take the board and bring it to his house. We'd do some work there, 40-minute drive, and then take it back to mine, final assembly, kind of ship. So that's fun if you're doing just a few. But the minute you have like 10, 15, 20 orders that need to ship, then it's like, fuck, it wasn't. So then when I felt kind of overwhelmed, that's when I decided to quit. Yeah.
And what were the first 6 months like of running the company?
6 months. So from March, it was hectic. So we started in March of 2017. I quit my job in June. I went full time in July. And in August, my brother left the company. So we were suddenly very short staffed, so it's always been like kind of a struggle, but now it was tough. It was very tough at the beginning, to be honest.
So your brother started off working with you and then left, is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. So he had other priorities. And I had been looking for another gig for a long time. Like quitting law was like my sole focus. Making this work was, I'm still very laser focused on making this company work, without any compromise, you know, making clients happy. That's number one priority. So it was hard. And then we got into this place, the space that I'm in right now, which we've actually tripled in size since then. But yeah, that's how we started 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years.
Brilliant. So do you want to tell us a little bit about, you know, the chronology of the different boards and your, you know, leading up to your current lineup, you know, just how that's all happened, you know, how your thinking progressed with each one,
Absolutely.
where they fit in the scale, yeah.
So the first one started, it was, we literally wrote prototype on it. We've always considered it kind of as a prototype. It was our first board, designed from just ideas in our mind, with a carbon fiber enclosure. And back then, trying to fit 60 cells of 30Q, 18 650s. Sorry, this is very technical lingo, I guess, but if people are listening to this, we kind of understand. Which back then was a fairly large battery. Today it's very it's average, I would say. But back then it was like, let's fit 60 cells. And then, and so that board was very based on the dimensions of the Trampa, which was the only experience we had. Never ridden anything else. So it was like, all right, let's make it a little longer than the Trampa, much wider than the Trampa, and let's use other trucks. So at some point we discovered the MBS trucks. I had ridden Trampa trucks, which had the spring and egg. Spring and egg are nice, but you really need to choose between going fast or going slow. And the spring will always bounce you back and forth. So it's fun for like carving, but once you start going at high speed and you're trying to keep an edge for for like 50 meters, if you're carving, if you're doing very, very long carve, which I like to do, going very fast, it's tough to keep it unless you have these, I think they call the eggs that are very, very stiff. So then we discovered the MBS trucks, which there wasn't a lot of reviews back then. People were not really using them. Maybe one or two people, but mostly mountain board settings, so not carving, just kind of going through rubble and rocks and stuff. So when we discovered those, that was good. And
you're talking about the Matrix 2 MBS.
Yeah, the
truck.
Matrix 2 with the shock blocks, which we still use today. It's a great entry level truck. It does the job. And so this first board was kind of, it feels big, but it's actually a short wheelbase board. So if you're going at speed, I'm around like 6 feet, and I really like this spread out. When I'm going fast, I want to lower my center of gravity, almost being like kind of in a squat. And you can't really do that on the Prototipo because you can't get your legs so far apart. So when we did the second iteration, there were a bunch of things that we wanted to do production-wise. The Prototipo was complicated to build. Each and every one of them have their little quirks. They're all unique. You get an insert in, the deck would pop. Okay, let's see, how can we fix this? So we'd lose so much time. Like theoretically, I could build maybe 10, 15 in a week, but in practice, if we got like 7 or 8 out, there was a big week because there was always something going on. There's always, and then we'd lose like an hour, 2 hours trying to fix a problem on one board. Some motor mount wouldn't go in, or we'd strip a screw at the end. You know, the last screw, then it pops and it's like, fuck, we need to take off the enclosure and start everything over. So there was a lot of things that we modified to make it easier to assemble, and also as a rider to make it so that at going at high speeds, which is really where the adrenaline kind of kicks in. You know, you can use it as a commuter go around, but now I always wear a motorcycle helmet, fully padded, hip guards, knee, elbows, wrist protect. I'm fully padded, and that's the only way I don't feel naked right now, because I'm pushing on average more than 35 kilometers an hour, 40 kilometers an hour in some rides. So it needs to be, and so that's how we kind of developed this a little longer platform. But I always wanted the board to be playful at lower speeds. That was always very, very important. So always keeping the flex, make sure that we get the right bushings and not make it too big, not like a 44-inch kind of thing, huge. So it's always kind of a compromise trying to make a board that can do both. Sorry, I'm just rambling.
No, it's really interesting. Well, we have actually had a question from Tom Moran from the club asking if you still sell original board.
No, we don't. They're complicated to make. I got a few, like we will never stop servicing them. So no. I mean, as long as people have prototipos and they don't mess with their settings, because that's like the main problem with the prototipos is people try to upgrade them by uploading new settings and they systematically brick them. So yeah. If you don't play with the settings and the board is good, then don't touch it. Because it's not like a car. It's not a Tesla. You're not going to unlock more performance. You're just going to see, the board was designed a certain way. It's very analog. These are very analog machines. They sound very high tech, but they're very kind of still analog, especially the prototipo. So if it works well, you've got no cutouts, no issues. Don't try to update any setting because. So to answer your question, I still have some stock because we keep servicing them. Someone breaks a deck, I can kind of send them a new one and whatnot. But no, we don't. You don't. Yeah, we've decommissioned the molds, so we're not making any more.
Limited edition, yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I always noticed about your boards was they have a sort of really unique deck, and I think I read somewhere that it was made in Canada.
Yeah, they're made in Montreal.
So do you want to tell us, is it someone you know that makes these decks? Is it a collab? What is the story behind the decks?
Yeah, it's a high-end downhill skateboard company from Montreal that makes our decks. That's all they do. They just make skateboards. So and they're very good. They're very nice. They're called Zenith.
Right.
Yeah.
I think there's a Zenith Bank as well in Africa.
What's that?
It's the same name as a bank in Africa.
Oh, yeah. They're not that rich. I hope so.
So you want to talk us through the range that you've got now, the Jaws and the Czar and the Lone Star? Yeah.
So we went from I'd say that the first model that we developed, the idea was to upgrade the trucks.
Yeah.
Do our own trucks because for two reasons. The first is that there was a limited range of bushings on the MBS trucks. You have yellows, you have orange, you have red. And we got MBS to make a very limited of blue bushings. Got just a few of them. We sold them to some member in the community. They won't make it more. Those are the very soft ones. And those would be good for someone like Suki.
Oh, yeah.
So we have riders that are 100, 105 pounds, and there's no way you can turn a board with the same bushings that, us guys use. So MBS not making any blue bushings, that was one of the reasons why we wanted to go with our own trucks and also get a little more stability by getting them wider. That was just like an added bonus. And also getting some precision out of it because as I mentioned earlier, they're all a little different. Even the trucks, the holes in the trucks are not exactly all at the same place. So this required a lot of backtracking and getting some different spacers, 6 different types of spacers that, you'd have to take the truck, put the wheel on. Okay, no, the spacer, the alignment's not good. But you do that times 100, 200, 300. You can't build a business.
So Alex, you're talking about going from the MBS trucks and then designing your own trucks.
The hyper trucks, yeah.
And all the iterations you went through. And I know that I've seen some other people's trucks have been claiming that there's cracks forming in the trucks and you've got a lot of kind of structural issues. I mean, did you worry about any of those things when you designed them?
Yeah. I worried about a lot about them. So when we designed them, I told Pedro, I want to design the most beautiful truck that you can, and we did kind of a mood board, and don't worry about the cost. Like if even technically it's going to cost a fortune, let's deal with that later. So just design the most strong, beautiful truck that you can, and then we'll see if it works. And we were able to make it work, but you can never. They cost a fortune to make. they cost more to make than some complete boards the Chinese are making. Just the trucks. That's our cost. They don't make any sense. There's 70-75 aluminum. There's no welds anywhere on them. So they're precision. So the only way to sell them was on a very, very high-end board where we could incorporate the cost into the whole. But we'd never make. If we were only a truck company, we'd be bankrupt. If you know what I mean. So that was kind of the idea to get a very. It was a gamble, but we knew there was some appetite from the riders to get more range, to get a quality board. So that's kind of the gamble that we took and that we keep taking, and kind of in our DNA to keep innovating anyways. So to answer your question, that was one of the reasons why we went to the Hypertrucks. Easier to assemble. Now everything's precision. You could just slap everything on. It's always the same. No different spacers, no varying, they're always the same from one board to the next. So we can pump out a lot of them. And they're very good. We worked with Riptide, Brad Miller. He has a Riptide
the bushing company, not the electric.
Yeah, exactly. Poor. Anyways, yeah, that's a disaster. But yeah, I respect Brad a lot. He's like an encyclopedia of knowledge in the skate industry, and he helped a lot make the Hypertrucks what they are today. So they're I'm very happy with the result.
That's awesome.
Now putting those on so the Nazare was the main idea was to just take the Prototipo, which was a 10S battery, and make a 12S board out of it. So we wanted a longer deck, so it would allow for more cells. So we were able to go from 50 cells to 50 cells of 2700s to 72 cells of 2700s in the Nazare. And then the Lone Star just came up as an idea along the way to just it wouldn't be so complicated to just stack two batteries one on top of the other, just make a little risers in the top trucks and double the range and see if people want it. We thought we'd sell one or two, to be honest. It was like a $4,000, man. But I mean, people are crazy. So
that's the top end model.
That's the flagship. That's the one I ride all the time. It's the one I'm most proud of. It's the most fun one. Yeah.
I mean, for me, it looks a little bit chunky, but I do imagine there are people that want to go 30 miles.
It is very chunky. I mean, there's not a lot of ways you can fit 144 cells on a skateboard. Everything is very tight in there, and we're battling for each millimeter. What's fun with the Lone Star actually is that you don't feel its weight when you're riding it because it's all under the carriage. So it actually feels way more planted. When you're going through a corner at speed, it just feels like it's on rails. I've never had the back kick off on me on the Nazare, but the Lone Star just feels that more planted because of the weight of it. That added 10 pounds of battery, you kind of feel it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's the high end. And then we kind of wanted to still cater to the Prototipo owners, so have something in the price point of $2,500, which was our entry level one, and that's the Jaws. So which is just kind of a pimped out version of our Prototipo, but with a faster charger, 12S battery, and not 10S battery, and a better deck. The deck has a snowboard top sheet. That's why there's color on it, because we can actually print on this top sheet, which is plastic. So it's very, very resistant. It's very, very pleasing.
So with the bigger battery, are you delivering more power to the motors?
No.
Well,
technically you are, very technically, but it's not continuous. That's the thing with skateboarding. You're not gunning the throttle all the time, because if you are, you're a freaking madman. You're going 70 kilometers an hour. I mean, once you hit that, you come back down very quick. It's all peaks, our sport. You'll go at 40, 50, 40, 60, 40. And if you're crazy, you'll go higher than that. But you're not pushing it. Nobody's going at 70 kilometers an hour for 3 minutes. So there's no, you understand what I mean? So that's why
there's a challenge out there, guys.
Yeah, there is. Yeah,
there'll be
there is.
a YouTube clip tomorrow. So somebody assuming the position.
I guess, yes, some nuts. I mean, I ride fast, but I try to calculate my risks now.
No, I know what you're saying. I've ridden motorbikes since I was 17, and I think I'm a bit more sensible now than I used to be. But you still like to let rip again.
Took some falls, right? And then you don't heal so quick, and you're just like, okay. So I just calculate more. If I gun it, it's clear. There's no one around. I know that if something goes wrong, I can just kind of slide. And
yeah. So thinking about you've described a bit about the development of the boards and that kind of focus on the quality, particularly. And I noticed you've got things like titanium screws on the decks and titanium hardware and stuff to avoid stripping the threads and stuff. I mean, that's quite an attention to detail. One of the other things I was just noticing as well was the incline levels. You want to tell folk that don't know about what incline levels your boards can do?
To be honest, I haven't found any streets that it won't accelerate me through.
Yes.
So we have pretty steep streets, but it's all a question when you use the biggest motors that basically the industry produces. Mm-hmm. With the biggest battery that you're ever going to produce, then it only becomes a question of ratio. It's all a question of gear ratio. So if you put the stock pulleys that we put on the board, it will climb a 350-pound man up any hill. You know, so it becomes,
It must be more about gravity as well, because if you don't have bindings on the board, when you get to a certain level, there's only so steep you can actually stand upright.
I don't know. I've never tried bindings. I'm very afraid of them, actually. What was that?
I was saying, think about Tony Hawk in his 900. You know, he's almost,
exactly. Oh, we have a question here. Should I read these or are you guys gonna? Yeah.
So I mean, we'll go for Vince's question. So he's asking about street wheel axles and gear drives. Will they be available for sale? An estimated price.
All right. So Vince Weissnick, the very soon the axles. We're actually in discussion with the urethane company to make our own wheel. So that's going forward. I would estimate this summer. Same with the gear drive. We're still testing. I'm getting our first samples of gear dry in a few weeks. And if all goes well, then we'll just launch production. But I'd say everything will be ready around July. As for prices, I haven't looked into those yet. So it'll be competitive, but I can't give any specifics. A brand, are we going to make a Lacroix brand remote? Yep, that's also in the plans. I haven't started testing that one yet, but the design is done and everything. So yeah, we'll be launching that as well. Hopefully I'll be testing it this summer.
So is it more like the flip ski or more like the white?
It's like nothing.
Oh, so I completely new. Any spoilers you can give us?
It will be very nice. It's going to have a screen. A very high definition OLED screen. Yeah.
I just had a comment come in about the incline. Apparently Evolve have made a video on YouTube where they show the Carbon GT going up the steepest hill in the world, which is in New Zealand. So if Carbon GT can make it, do we think the Lacroix can make it too?
I think we can entirely smoke him. Probably just have a time to go up on the top of that hill, eat a sandwich, and then they'll come. Yeah, no, honestly, it's not even a competition, I think. But they've said so themselves. I mean, people have been nagging them to do, and then they just admitted. I think that our boards are pricier, but you know they'll go faster. They have more range. They're more powerful. They're more everything. So, but depending on where you are in the world, right? Because in Canada, it's actually cheaper to buy a Lacroix than an Evolve. They're upwards of $3,000 here.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Wow,
so it all depends.
yeah.
Uh,
So that's maybe something about. No.
I'll have to do the conversion into Canadian and see how many pounds that is.
yeah. Well, the pound is always very strong, so that's probably like 2 or 3 pounds.
If I'm on xe.com, 3,000 Canadian dollars.
Yeah.
To
it should be around like 2,200 pounds, maybe.
It's about 1,900 UK.
19. Okay, so it's even stronger. Yeah. And last question from Vince was, what's something y'all have learned or changed about the Jaws Nazare Lone Star boards and shipping the new boards? Oh, we're always iterating. That's literally like the Tesla Model S, you know? If you bought one in 2012 and you bought one today, it has the same name and kind of looks the same, but it's an entirely different car because there's always little iterations. So it's the same with us. There's always the pulleys will be just a half a millimeter. We're always trying to improve every new batch of products. You wouldn't see it. You need to be severely OCD and have like 2 boards right next to each other to kind of even see the differences. But for us, it's just a matter of always making it better. But not a lot of structural changes, almost none.
So thinking about that, that sort of small iterations, those, and then you get sometimes they get the big jumps of like a completely new set of trucks or a completely new design. Is there anything that because there's obviously a variety of things keep getting talked about in terms of the next big thing in the actual tech of batteries? Have you got any particular ideas of what you think might be the front runner as to what might be the next practical thing that you could see moving on from the type of cells you're using at the moment, the Sanyo NCRs and stuff?
So I think in terms of electronic speed controller, we've kind of reached it with the Storm cores that we're going to be releasing this summer. Putting an 18S battery into a skateboard is pretty close to what a human can physically handle on a board. I get goosebumps every time I step on the board. It's really, really fun. There's no need to worry about gear ratios anymore. It's just super powerful all across the band. It's nuts. It's really, really, really crazy nuts. So in terms of the ESC, I don't think there'll be much improvement. We would be we would be going above that, would be catering to a fraction of a community.
So it's more about the range, I guess it would be.
Yes, I think it would be more into the battery. And, right now, there's a lot of talk about the solid state batteries, but maybe Samsung nailed it. I read an article about that this week. But right now, all the car companies are using 21700 cells. That's where we're going. We're using 2700s, and now we'll be converting to 21700s because the 2700s that we're using right now are actually going to be discontinued. So we're going to bump up to 21700s. But besides the solid state battery, and we're still probably 5, 7, 10 years out before it's like consumer ready. So I in the foreseeable future, I don't see anything else than a lithium-ion battery. Yeah.
Okay.
So talking about batteries, I notice your boards all have pretty big batteries compared to a lot of other boards. Yeah. And you guys are in Canada and you sell to, I believe, the United States and Europe. Do you have any
all over? Sorry.
Do you have any problems shipping out of Canada or getting your batteries to Europe, or how do you do it?
No. You just need to get the batteries certified, and then you can ship them. No, that's just basic due diligence of building boards. Once you're shipping batteries, you need to understand the laws around them, and that's something that I looked into from the start, and we have almost none, no battery problems. Our batteries are also very well built. We put a lot of time into them, engineering them and building them. So no, there's no issues with once you can ship to one country, you can ship to all countries. We're shipping to 15 countries right now. So 16 maybe. So yeah, no, it's not it's not an issue.
So, and as well, see, before we went live, we were having a bit of a chat about the legality of electric skateboarding in various countries around the world. How does it feel for you in Montreal in terms of how do the general public and the police regard electric skateboards?
It's shifted. So when I started the company in 2018, and when I was writing the Trampa build on 2017, I'd say that it was like a curiosity, and then like policemen would kind of just not really know what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And then it went like a year later. I never ride recklessly when I'm in large groups of public. So, I kind of just lay low, and I even say hi to them. They say hi to me back. And that's kind of my whole experience. But I've heard of people getting some tickets, and that was like a year and a half ago. And now, because there is such a sensibilization, I would say, for electric transport, it's kind of, oh, well, you know what, he's not taking a car right now. So it feels like in the eye of the public, there's not much of them. You know how people were just like going crazy, oh, there's going to be skateboards everywhere. It's not the case. It's never the case. It's still risky business to be riding an electric skateboard. You need to be kind of an adrenaline semi-junkie to do it. So it's not for everyone. So there's not tons of them everywhere. And if the guys that are actually doing it and girls that are doing it ride safely when they're in crowded, public, and then just go nuts when they're alone in some, B road, I don't. So that's why I feel that recently it's been much less of an issue. I don't hear anyone getting tickets anymore. And then there's been a lot of shift in the legalization around the world, where electric unicycles and they've, all the countries and legislatures have been very busy dealing with limes everywhere, just littering the streets. And
I mean, I think that's one of the differences. I think that we can sometimes get tarred with that brush, that folk just associate electric transport with this model where you pick up an electrified version of something that you've not really ridden since you were a kid, and then you head straight out in traffic in the middle of a town, which I don't think is the best model. I don't know about you, but I learned my electric skateboard basic skills and, making an idiot of myself well away from the busy streets, not with a couple of shopping bags on the handlebars and scooting out into main traffic.
So I see it rather favorably on our end as a manufacturer. What we're trying to do is incorporate lights, rear lights, brake lights, just to be like kind of visible. And that will ease whatever discussion we'll eventually have with any country that will legislate against us. I'll be happy to go into the House of Commons anywhere and just advocate for electric skateboarding, because we're trying to make him.
We're in the middle of a bit of a consultation at the moment. I think we might have a bit more of an in-depth discussion in another session, but the UK government did an initial consultation a year ago, which I took part in, and I've taken part in this follow-up one. And they are asking a lot about, all the different models and what should a decent, way to deal with this be, because they're all very different. And for me, I think a lot of the issues is that we play catch up. So the legislation is about a specific model or a specific speed or and then that stifles innovation, because something new comes along, and by the time it gets accepted, you've either to accept a period of illegality, or it can just die in that period, even if it's a brilliant product. So I think what you were saying about, I think if they legislated based on rider behaviour, so don't be a dick model of like you're in a busy crowd, don't go rattling through at high speed, terrifying people.
Exactly.
And as long as you can accelerate, brake, and maneuver around people at the speed that you're riding the thing. That I think that should be a better model because it's a behavioural model, and then it doesn't legislate against bigger, more powerful boards, etc. But we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, totally. So it's the same here. I think it's the same everywhere. So right now, actually, I see it rather favorably.
I think in some places like maybe France, although I'm not sure e-boards are legal, electric skateboards are legal, but in Brazil, the electric scooter companies were everywhere, and they didn't seem to have any restrictions. And I think they wanted to sort of capture that market. You know what I mean? They were coming from a more competitive kind of idea that they wanted to maybe produce these electric scooters and such like. But I've just had one question come in, Alex. So there's a lot of people listening and just hearing about your company for the first time. Who would you basically recommend your boards for? Would it be an advanced person, a beginner, a big user, a small person? Who would you recommend your boards for?
It's a good question because it seems to be a wide range of people. So there's, of course, because we have riders from like 20-something to 60-something-year-olds, and yet they both buy the same board and get the same kick out of it, but they're obviously not riding them in the same way. So I think the common denominator is just the sense of freedom, the speed, and just like the sheer like what the hell kind of feeling that you get when you punch the throttle, that you can't believe it exists kind of thing, and carving uphill. Once you carve uphill a few times and then you just realize that it's not like a feeling that's natural for the human mind, because you've been, carving downhill with gravity all your life and then going uphill and accelerating all the way through. That's just crazy. So I would say that, like, shared passion for board sports. In terms of experience, I'd say we attract maybe more experienced riders, just because of the prices of our boards. We don't do a budget board, so it's they're all pricier. So people usually hesitate before. Well, a little less now, I guess. We're getting more and more first riders, but I would say the majority of our riders have our second or third board is one of ours. It's not their first board, so they're kind of experienced.
If I had your board and I wanted to give it to a beginner, is there a sort of speed setting I could put it to that it would go slow?
No, that's the thing. No, not easily, not right now. We're working on an app where maybe it would be. So that's why it's like. No, it's literally like learning. If you're learning to skate, it's like learning to drive on a Porsche 911 Turbo. Some might be able to do it and not wreck it, but you can get very hurt, and you might wreck the car. So I mean, I wouldn't learn. Anyone that's like, oh, I'd like to try it, I'd like to learn. First of all, once they know the price, they're like, what? And then after, they're like, well, okay, maybe I think you should kind of try to. Learn on something else before because you can get seriously hurt. I mean, they go really fast. So. And then we have a few more questions. Suki, is there a reason we don't see smaller sized people riding the Lacroix? I think it's just because they don't film themselves as much as the no, but I think it's true that we don't. There's not a lot of female riders. We do have a few, and so the story behind the blue bushings that I was mentioning earlier, one of the first clients actually of Lacroix that bought a prototypo was actually a good friend of mine. He's called Francis, and his wife actually bought one as well, and she's like 100 pounds. She's a great skier, one of the best skiers I know, and she thought that the yellow bushings on the MBS trucks were too stiff. So sent her some pair of blues, and she really liked it. Now she's enjoying her prototypo. So when we designed the hyper trucks, it was with her in mind as well, saying, I need to be able to have fun at the board. The guy that's 300 pounds needs to have fun, and Audrey, which is 100 pounds, needs to have fun. So that's why we ship the boards now with a whole range of bushings, so that Audrey can ride it, the 300-pound guy can ride it, and everyone else in between can as well. But I don't know. I guess it attracts more guys. It's kind of technology for now. I'm not going to lie. It's not 50-50. It's not 50% women that are buying our boards. It's not that at all. They stand out. The women that buy them kind of stand out. But
I think that goes for all kinds of skateboarding.
I think, yeah, that's what I was going to be. I think it's not like an issue with our boards. I think it's just generally skateboarding. Kind of. It's just the way kids are raised. Like boys use a skateboard, especially people our age. Now I guess people are more mindful to like raise their children and just put a young girl on a skateboard. I know I certainly do with my daughter, but I know that 30 years ago, putting a girl on a skateboard was kind of a weird thing for a parent to do. So that could explain it as well.
Yeah, so we want to encourage folk to be as diverse a group riding boards as possible, but you're starting from where you are, don't you, really? So so that's good. There's a couple of things there and just on the screen. So Dimitri said a couple of things. He was just saying he's glad that we were talking about doing that kind of not riding full tilt everywhere, just being a bit more respectful. And he's also just asking about the range of spare parts you sell. So obviously you've got the Lacroix hyper trucks there if anybody wants to upgrade to the.
Yeah, so he asked Dimitri Williams, he says, also,
yes.
Do you just produce and sell boards or do you do hardware and stuff as well? I'm not sure what he means
the site.
Hardware. Yeah, there's a lot of, we just launched a new website like 5-6 weeks ago, and there's a lot of more parts on them now. The hyper trucks we do. Like the new boards, they're basically all designed in-house now, especially with the Stormcore. There's basically nothing left. The next innovations will be in the electric will be probably like a smart BMS where but that's for the rider. It's not so useful. It's more for us. If there's an issue, it will facilitate our troubleshooting to see if there's an issue with the battery, because you'll be able to see all the P groups and whatnot. So, but that's for the rider. I don't think it's a very great argument that there's a smart BMS or a dumb BMS, as long as there's a battery management system inside the board. But yeah, all the rest we kind of do our own. Everything is our own parts. So, and we had another question from Michael Scott. Will the Stormcore be available for DIY customers? Yeah, it will. We're testing it right now with a bunch of guys. Unfortunately, that testing has taken a little more time because our first batch sold very, very quickly to other skate companies, Hoyt and Cali and BioBoards, and so they have priority, of course. I mean, but the DIY is always on our list, and we're going to be launching that this summer. I would say the 60Ds, we're probably going, if you look around July, there's a lot of things that are going to happen in July.
Yes.
July.
So thinking after the lockdown, are you thinking about heading across to the UK at all at any point?
Yeah,
doing a UK tour in the Lone Star?
It was full of dates coming to see you guys, and I wanted to go to It's Electric in Paris and whatnot, but yeah, I don't know. I would like to make my way over there, of course, when it's safe. Yeah, 100%. Especially now that we have a new European site for the last. We've signed a distributor. It's been we've been discussing it for a year now. So and the website is lacroixeurope.com, and that's our European distributor catering directly to all the European countries. No duties, very low shipping. So it nets about a discount of between 400 euros and 700 euros per board.
That's pretty tasty.
Yeah, because you get a lot of surprises, right? Depending on who the custom agent is and how they classified the board, then you would get duties for, some would get it for 200 euros, some would get it for 500 euros, some more. You would never know. So now we're done with that, and shipping is way cheaper. We used to ship for like $300. That's what it costs us to ship a board across the sea with FedEx and DHL. But now I think it's a flat rate of 50 €50. So, yeah. You
I think we've got a little while to go before we can say that Lacroix are bargain boards, but that every little helps, as they say.
yeah, no, they're not bargain boards for sure. But if you can give less of it to your government, then it's always
cool.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we're just about running out of time for tonight. But Alex, it has been a pleasure to chat with you and learn about Lacroix. And thank you for coming on. So it's good night from me, E-Skater. Minty,
good night from me.
Thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you guys. Thanks for your time.
Adios.
Thanks for everyone.
All right. Cheers then. Bye.